Hello and welcome everyone. I'm your Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy. We just had a global seismic burst strike. Scenes of devastation out of Venezuela. This is not what you want to see. This is really bad. 7.2 earthquake struck, followed by a magnitude 7.5 about 45 seconds later, according to the USGS, right outside Caracas. Both of these being within about the top 20 kilometers of the subsurface. We don't have a depth yet for the 7.5, or at least the USGS has it as 10 kilometers down, which is also the default value. But the 7.2 characterized to about 21, 22 kilometers down. This has been devastating, and this is almost identical to what occurred in 1812, which I think it's like the estimate's like 10, 20,000 dead from that. There was a double sequence that struck magnitude, mid-magnitude 7s. This is almost identical to that. At the same time, we have just had a magnitude 6.9 strike Japan. Thankfully, we've had these sort of earthquakes off the coast of Japan in this region over the past 8 months. This is about 50 kilometers down. No tsunami is going to be generated from that. And the people of Japan, they're ready for much bigger quakes, thankfully. And so this just showing that we're in a global seismic burst, but thankfully we can kind of turn our attention more towards Venezuela. But yeah, we also did just have a magnitude 6.9 hit Japan, and over the past 8 months, we've had multiple magnitude 6s and even magnitude 7 earthquakes strike Japan. So that area is very active as well. Of course, I reported for you earlier today on this magnitude 6 that struck Willits. You may ask, why am I covering a magnitude 6? Well, this area specifically in between Ukiah and Willits never gets earthquakes this big. So we were talking in today's live stream earlier about how California and Venezuela have a connection in time with earthquakes in 1812. Well, we just saw now a double sequence hit Venezuela. Let me show you some video of this. Video just coming in. This occurred maybe like an hour ago, a little bit more than that. This is from a coastal city, just right where the epicenters were effectively. Buildings have collapsed, extensive shaking. This is really not good. There's no tally at all in terms of injuries or lives lost. Certainly there's going to be people that lost their lives in this, unfortunately. And there'll be more injuries, and there's going to be even more destruction. This just happened. I'm reporting for you on this live. More information is going to roll in throughout the live stream, so we are going to keep up to date on this. I expect this to probably be a little bit of a longer live stream. I'll answer your questions as best I can. If you have a question that you want to make sure get answered, A, stay on topic, and B, attach it to a super thanks. That way I can actually see them in a separate list, because the chat's going to go really quick. So I'll take some from the general chat, but it's only just going to be by chance that I happen to get yours. If you have a question that you want answered, to the best of my ability, attach it to a super thanks of any amount. And if it's super off topic, I'm not going to answer it, even if it's attached to a super thanks, because this is a serious situation. I'm not here to mess around with brain dead ideas. Okay, so just laying that out very clearly for you. We see this earthquake double sequence. Let's actually move over to the USGS map so we can see this a little better. So here we have our latest earthquakes map from USGS. And we see here off on the sidebar, these 3 earthquakes initially came in as a magnitude 7.1 and a 6.7 that hit Japan. So 7.1 Venezuela, 6.7 hit Japan. Then after about 10 minutes, I was already like, holy crap, it's happening. Then it got upgraded to what we see here. So this is big news. We can actually type in, we're going to read through this article here. But if you look through the USGS catalog, they don't have this earthquake here, the 1812 Caracas Earthquake, in their catalog. Don't ask me why, they don't have it. But you can look right here. 1812 Caracas Earthquake took place in Venezuela, March 26. This is, of course, 1812. Now, you had New Madrid to the north pop off with multiple magnitude 7s in December of 1811, going through spring of 1812. Then you had this 1812 Caracas earthquake in March. That actually happened simultaneously with the last earthquakes in New Madrid. And then in December in 1812, you had a double sequence strike California and SoCal right on the San Andreas and then off near like the Santa Barbara Islands channel. So this is very similar. You know, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. We just saw a historic earthquake in California with the 5.6 in Willits. We now just saw a double sequence strike Venezuela, the most destructive earthquake in a long time. We're going to look through the historic record, but this is the big one to measure up against. Again, this is not in the USGS record, which is why we're looking at this right now. But you'll notice here, based on contemporary descriptions, this earthquake is believed to have consisted of 2 seismic shocks occurring within the span of 30 minutes. So the first one destroyed Caracas and the second Merida. And, you know, the problem with these double sequences, the last major double sequence that we had was Turkey in 2023. This is the 5th of February, 2023, right with the full moon. That was, and I can show you where that was really quick. That was also a strike slip, predominantly strike slip quake right here in this area. I've been to Gaziantep afterwards. A lot of people lost their lives or injured. I mean, it was really scenes of devastation from Gaziantep, from Syria, other places from that. That was a magnitude 7.8 and 7.5. The problem with these double sequences is that you get the initial earthquake to start, and then as it's starting to like wind down, you get this other earthquake to occur. Now in Venezuela today is a 7.2 and then the 7.5. Here it was a 7.8 and then a 7.5. But it's that when everything's already jello and then you get that second jolt to hit that's very significant, equivalent roughly in magnitude, it's really bad. It's really bad. We see here our global seismic activity level provided by Volcano Discovery. Our current seismic activity level is extreme. We see the 7.8 that occurred Philippines there just about 2 weeks ago. And in fact, as I talked about in the live stream earlier today, these features on the sun known as coronal holes are well connected to earthquakes. And we have just entered into this high-speed stream because these are deficiencies in the corona of the sun, the outermost atmosphere. The magnetic field extends out, high-speed solar wind goes out, it envelops the Earth, especially when they're cutting through the trans-equatorial region. This is negative polarity, meaning it connects to Earth's magnetic field nicely. The solar wind velocity right now is over 600 kilometers per second. Both of these, and this just happened, both of these earthquakes popped off the moment we connected to this coronal hole. And the last time we had this was that 7.8. If I go back again, right here, sorry, not 2 weeks ago, about a month ago, rather. No, sorry, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that was with a different coronal hole, but we see that 7.8. But we get these regular sequences. So we're in a global seismic burst right now. Let's go back to the USGS map and give this a look. We're going to have to cover a lot of stuff here. I already see some super thanks have come in. So let's put this one up right here. Days of Noah 711. Thank you for keeping us updated. Prayers for the people of Venezuela. Let's do that right now. Let's not dilly-dally around. Just a quick moment of prayer. Please, God, protect everyone in Venezuela that's been affected by these earthquakes. We know already happened, but these prayers can also act retroactively. You know, just ensure that everyone got to exactly where they needed to get to be safe, because we did see quite a bit of destruction already with these videos coming out. So in the Lord's name, thank you, amen. Thank you for that reminder. We have a lot of stuff to get through today. A lot of stuff to get through today. Okay. Yeah, here's a report from Andreina. Grateful for this. I'm originally from Venezuela. We don't know about many loved ones, but many buildings collapse in different cities. Here's a different video I can show you. And we'll try to get some more from X later. That's where they usually get posted. But here's a video right after this earthquake struck showing some of the devastation. That's the problem. There's certain ratings for these earthquakes. Like these buildings have certain earthquake ratings. Often in these sort of countries, and I haven't been to Venezuela, you know, I would love to go there, meet the people, etc. But often the building standards aren't up to where they need to be. And a double sequence, how do you even really plan for that? I mean, you can start to really retrofit buildings and putting these gyroscopic bases and such, you know, the seismic dampeners, but a double sequence is really difficult to, it's a whole different level of devastation that can hit because the surface waves compound upon one another too. You get this constructive amplification. So it's called constructive interference. When two waves combine, they double, as you know, it's whatever A plus B is. So they can be much stronger. So yeah, really, really bad scenes out of Venezuela right now. And we're still just getting data in at this exact moment in time. I just want to make sure. I don't know what the deal is with the tsunami, so let me get a tsunami thing coming up. There shouldn't be any tsunami risk, but let's just check. Yeah, okay. So here is our NOAA tsunami warning advisory, watch or threat. They're saying nothing right now. But they are recognizing the 6.9 there off the east coast of Japan. And as you will see, they're also recognizing this 7.1, but it's actually 7.5, 7.2 for Venezuela. Because it didn't occur off the coast, but it occurred close to the ocean. So the way that works, and that's that's an older one yet. There, yeah, okay. So what can happen, we'll go back to the USGS now. What can happen is if this is very, very close to the ocean, you can actually have a block, like an entire seismic block can shift down, for example, or shift up, depending on the mechanism. If it's a normal fault, an extensional quake, right, you're having one side shift down. If it's a reverse fault, it's going to thrust up. Both can generate tsunamis. Now, if it's a shift down for the coastal region here, then what can happen is that you now have the coastline 3 meters below where it normally is. That'll push the water out and then it comes rushing back in. So it's a local tsunami and you may get some tsunami ripple going up. A clear example of that occurred back in Hawaii. It's 1975. We've talked about that before. Basically, the southern slope of Kilauea here, you see it's all torn up. 1975 magnitude 7. I think it was 7.7, 7.5, something like that. Either way, basically the whole thing shifted down like 3 meters, and then that pushed the water out. Then the tsunami came rushing back in. My friend actually was literally caught up in that tsunami and almost drowned in it. He just turned 84. That was way back in time, but he's awesome. But so it doesn't look like we had that risk with this. If we go here, we can see why. We'll click on the 7.5. We see already USGS has this as a red pager estimated for both. Now, what does that mean? This means that the estimated fatalities here, 44% chance, 10,000 to 100,000, and only 3% chance, according to the initial calculations, the data coming in. We'll find out in the weeks ahead. It's going to take weeks to find out exactly what happened as it relates to injuries, casualties, etc. Okay? The initial reports are going to be way less than they actually are. So anyone that's like two hours from now saying only 12 people, guess what? It's going to be a lot more in 2 days. That's just how it works. Only 3% chance, according to USGS, that it's 100 to 1,000. We hope that's what it is, or less. Probably not. So they're looking across the board at it being 1,000 or more. So this is really not good. This happens though. This, every now and then we get earthquakes that are destructive like this. We see the estimated economic losses in millions there. You notice that it starts basically at 1,000, so $1 billion going up to 10 billion. I mean, I don't know how it scales up going beyond that, but 100 billion seems quite a lot. But we've already seen buildings down. This is at least, I mean, for reference, the magnitude 6 that struck Napa was $1 billion in damage, and that was way less than this. So we're probably looking at least 10, 20, 50 billion dollars of damage. I mean, maybe more. So really not good. Let's go back here to our overview and let's look at our moment tensor. This tells us what type of earthquake this was. And we see here are two fault plane solutions. This third number there is called the rake, and that tells you whether it went up, down, or sideways. And so if it's negative, that means it was an extensional quake, but 0 and 180, whether it's positive or negative, indicate that it was strike slip. So one of these fault plane solutions, this one right here, shows that we had a strike slip fault with only 4 degrees of normal movement. So basically a standard strike slip quake, you see that right there, on a fault dipping 74 degrees, and the strike was 86. Or we had one that was slightly more extensional along a fault that was nearly vertical. So it's going to be this solution right here. The reason why we know that, it's going to be this one. So we know it's almost a perfect strike slip is that we can go back to the geology. So if you go back one more time, or maybe, let's go back here. You will see our plate boundary here, South America, and then the Caribbean plate. So we know that you have a major plate boundary cutting across along that same strike. And then you even see how this all kind of connects in eventually to the subduction zone with the mountain ranges there. But we know that the fault plane solution is this way and not north-south. Almost certainly. So that shows that there was very little extensional drop for, let's say, one of the blocks, which means that there probably wasn't a tsunami with this. Almost certainly. I think we would have seen reports for that by now, but we can kind of reverse engineer the final result for that. We can look at our 7.2. Also, they have this classified as a red pager. And we can see our moment tensor here. And we see very similar characteristics. This time, they're showing a little bit of positive movement on that strike direction. But again, 81-degree dip there. So that's the direction of the fault rupture. And they are 2 different earthquakes. So they could have been slightly different, but within 45 seconds of each other. So this being really, really bad. Here we have our did you feel it? Some responses coming in from across Venezuela for the 7.5. We see here that we see that red dot right there. So we can even zoom in on this. We can put in tectonic plates, faults. Let's see actually if they'll show population density. Yeah, so here we have our population density. So again, here's the capital. Really dense population as you see with the black areas. So really quite severe. The most extreme shaking looks like it was felt right on the coast, but intense shaking felt everywhere. And we have very limited reports because it's Venezuela and, well, the USGS is the United States Geologic Survey, not Venezuelan Geologic Survey. So a lot of Venezuelans probably don't know to go to the USGS page to log their report. But we do see some reports coming in. And we see the ISO lines for this. So really strong double sequence striking Venezuela. This is very serious. Very serious. Now I want to show you, we're going to keep covering this and we'll get maybe some new video. I mean, we have this one right here, which we've looked at. The first 2 videos I was able to find that showed effectively what was happening are these ones right here. This one and then also this one right there. Both from near the epicenter. But we will also just take a quick look at the space weather because I think this is all connected into it. We've seen this time and time and time again. I mean, basically we just put out an alert for high magnitude earthquakes as a result of the space weather and this large transequatorial coronal hole. Okay, it just went geoeffective. We see that clearly by going to our real-time solar wind. And again, I'm going to turn myself off, but see the yellow line right here? That is our solar wind velocity, and you see it just now is ramped up to 640 kilometers per second. So it's going very, very fast. The solar wind's not super strong. You see up top is the magnetic field. Went up to about 16 nanotesla. And we have been having some southward component. We are not in a geostorm. You see down below the geomagnetic activity via the KP index. A geomagnetic storm is a 5 or higher, so we're not there. But we are in this high-speed stream. And if we go back here, we can get the timing of these earthquakes. They occurred at 2200 to 2230 from Venezuela to Japan. So let's go back here. 2200 is right after we went up. See my cursor? That's at 2203, right when the Venezuela quakes started to pop off a minute before. And then Japan was at 2230, effectively, within 30 minutes of each other. So we just ramped up into this high-speed stream. And the proof is in the pudding. When you are able to effectively forecast something's going to happen and then it does, that's how you know it's a real thing, okay? And you do that over and over and over. And also, it's not just you're putting out 500 forecasts a day as Twitter posts and then eventually one of them will be right. It's like selective forecasting. So we can start to do accurate earthquake forecasting based off of some of these factors. Getting exact location, time, magnitude is difficult, but in terms of the global trends, we're starting to get that down in terms of when we're going to go up in activity, when we're going to go down. And we do see connections in time between certain locations. So now that we've had this magnitude 7.2 and 7.5 double burst in Venezuela, and we also just had this historic earthquake up here with aftershocks near Willits, that now basically this is the location for the historic aftershock, the historic 5.6 in Willits. This is indicating that California very likely could get a very big earthquake soon. All the factors are aligning. Now this could be a few months from now. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. With 1812, if we use that as our our good example of what actually happened, this was in March. The double sequence, 1812 Caracas earthquake, that was in March. SoCal was in December. And now we've had quakes up here. We've had quakes up here. We've had quakes in Nevada. We just had a quake right here on the Garlock Fault, as you can see. So we have a lot happening right now. I just want to check to see if we have any wave visualizations from IRIS here. They'll update it eventually, but they don't have it yet. I hope me loading up Twitter doesn't cause things to crash. It's been a little odd recently, but let's see what I can get. Here we have some video from Venezuela. This is just a search. I'm not vetting this or anything. I don't know what it is. But this is looking pretty serious right here. Sides of buildings collapsing, bricks, and intense shaking. This is going to be intense shaking. Here's another video. Let's put this on the screen here. Here's another video from Venezuela showing some of the buildings that have collapsed. Sides of slopes having gone down. So remember, there's people in these buildings. It's not like every single building happens to be uninhabited. Like there's people in these buildings. Here we see one of like the fault plane solutions for this basically. So you see that you had this entire fault rupture across all the way to Puerto Cabello. And that when you get a big earthquake, this is important to point out. I'm glad that we stumbled upon this. When you get a big earthquake, it's not just the epicenter. Often you get a whole section of fault to rupture simultaneously. So you have an epicenter, right, where the seismic waves basically precipitate out, like, crystallization, then boom, they go. But you can get a long section, 100 kilometers. If a really large earthquake, like 500 plus kilometers, but that's really large. But you can get a large section to rupture and slip. And the rupture can be, for something like this, it could be 3 meters on average, and then a maximum 5-meter displacement in some locations. Like, that's insane. So think of how powerful the shaking is to cause that. This was categorized as, I think the USGS has it as extreme shaking. If you go back to our 7.5 here, let's see what we got. We'll go back to our overview. And they have this rated as a 9, which on here is violent shaking. So one step away from extreme, thank God. But violent shaking. And we do start to see the initial solution here with the USGS, showing that this intensity is quite distributed, right? This is 10 kilometers down here below. So Yuracoy to Puerto Cabello, but even off the coast. So we can measure that here on USGS. Let's go over here. Oh, please stay with me, baby. Okay. And want to make sure I get the right towns, because San Felipe, let's that may be showing. There's San Felipe. Okay, so here we can measure this, and we'll just go simply across. This is like 110 kilometers or more of rupture that we're seeing, and that makes sense for a magnitude 7.5, 7.2. It's actually probably a bit more than that, but that's what we got right now. So at least 100 kilometers of rupture along this strike slip major plate boundary. You know, they show the plate boundary here, and then they show a lesser plate boundary here going through the mountains. But effectively, these things aren't hard and fast, right? You know, the lines on a Google Earth mean less than reality. So this is a major slip along a major plate boundary, North American, Caribbean, and then also connecting into some of these other microplates. We go back here, see what. Here's from the airport, the Caracas Airport, major damage reported, and you see what's happening. It doesn't look too bad. Like, thankfully, well, there's stuff happening. Okay, yeah, I was just about to say, thankfully the roof didn't collapse, and well, I'm wrong. It did collapse in certain areas. So bricks falling, those are heavy bricks. I'm seeing it the first time. That one at least. I didn't watch all these videos. I wanted to get on the live stream for you. I guess the World Cup game is going. This looks pretty tame, thankfully. Yeah, here's a scene from that building, just a different video. This is, oh my God, oh my God. Yeah, viewer discretion advised, by the way. If you're sensitive to this, you probably already signed off at that point. So, this is very serious. Oh yeah, this post. I had this up, and then my browser crashed out before the live stream. But here's some photos from Venezuela. And a report. I'll read it. It's behind me, but I'll read it for you, okay? Vivero, Venezuela was rocked by two strong earthquakes, one measuring 7.2 and the other 7.5. The tremor was horrible, even worse than the one in 1967 when an earthquake struck Caracas. We'll look at the historic record next, okay? The building was shaking. The police helped me get down because I couldn't do it myself, said Maria Romero, a 80-year-old pensioner living in southern Caracas. Some areas of the capital are without electricity as a result of the seismic activity. Simon Bolivar International Airport in Maiquetía. Apologies for my Spanish pronunciations. I hope I'm doing them okay. Located in the Venezuelan state of La Guaira, sustained damage. So all this is just coming. Here we see a crack, I guess, through the road here. This is our same guy. Larger cracks have appeared in roads across Venezuela following the recent earthquakes that occurred this Wednesday afternoon. Local time videos showing the condition of the country's roads are already circulating on social media, what we're seeing. So yeah, you start to get cracks like that, you know this is like a big earthquake, okay? This is, and now, okay, here's a little a rainbow of hope, okay? Is that this is probably it for Venezuela. We saw this in 1812 with the double sequence, magnitude 7s. We just saw this now. We're going to look through the historic record in just a second, but it's probably not going beyond this. Now, and for a strike slip boundary, it would be pretty remarkable for it to have a 7.2, a 7.5, and then if these are foreshocks, an 8.5. That would be, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not possible because the Earth is crazy, as we're seeing today with the 7.2, 7.5, and 6.9 Japan. But this is probably it. Now, that said, we could be looking at aftershocks, magnitude 6 or greater. So the issue with that is that as you have all this damage get sustained, things are already, as they settle down, they're now on edge. A magnitude 6, even though it's not a magnitude 7, magnitude 6.5 rolls in, let's say, as an aftershock, that can further cause things to collapse. And it can be in this period of time, let's say 48 hours later. Locals think the danger's past. They didn't go to school maybe for geology. They, if you don't know, you don't know. That's why I do here the channels to educate people. But if you don't know, you don't know. So they could maybe be back in their home, starting to like plaster up the wall, whatever, and then something else happens, an aftershock that's able to knock a new wave of damage down. So this is a very serious situation. Not only now and like what happened, but for the next week or so. We're really gonna have to track this, see what happens over the next week. But the risk of aftershocks is quite high, and the typical rule of thumb is that they go up to a magnitude, one magnitude less than the main shock, which here is a 7.5. And if you add these two together, it's probably about a 7.6. So maybe we're looking like up to a magnitude 6.6. Sometimes it goes a little higher, the aftershock, but unlikely to get anything over magnitude 7 following this. Probably, if there is an aftershock, 6.5 or less. And then I would think there's going to be quite a few magnitude 5s over the next few days, and those can be destructive. Magnitude 5 can knock over a chimney just in a normal town. So imagine if things are already super, shaken up and partially destroyed, right? Damaged, huge cracks in walls. Really not good. Let's go back here and let's do a search for significant earthquakes around Venezuela. Let's just hope that they have them all, because USGS has proven that they don't put everything in their catalog, because unless they literally updated it 2 minutes ago with the 1812 quake, we are going to see how they don't have everything in their catalog, because I set this for 1800. So we're going to click this just like that. And this is a bit of a bigger area than just Venezuela, but that is what we want. And we're going to set this for magnitude. Let's do 6.5. There's going to be quite a few. We'll see if we need to refine this search, but we'll start with 6.5 and go there. Okay, it's not too many. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not too many. UTC time. And we do want that on because we want our satellite view. Yeah. Okay. So if we go to oldest here, we have 1900 as our oldest, magnitude 7.7 near the coast of Venezuela. That's going back to 1900. Here's the 1967 earthquake someone mentioned, magnitude 6.6. I'm glad I put in 6.5 and greater. That's the last big earthquake that Caracas has had. So you have the if we go 6.5 and greater, then you have this magnitude 6.6 in 1967. You have this magnitude 7 off the coast in 1900, and then you have the double sequence in 1812. Those are the main ones that we know about. Of course, there's other earthquakes that have struck Venezuela. 7.3 right here, 2018. That was recent, but that was deep. See the depth there? Look at the difference with our, did you feel it? A lot of people felt this, but it wasn't at violent shaking. This is at very strong shaking. And, in terms of destruction, in terms of lives lost, probably not that much, because it's 150 kilometers down. So a lot of that energy was absorbed up into the earth as it traveled all the way to the surface. The hypocenter is 150 kilometers down, right? The epicenter is just the location of the hypocenter on the surface of the earth. Here we see a magnitude 7, 20 kilometers down, 1997. That must have been much more destructive. And then we see, of course, other earthquakes here going around. We get big earthquakes in Colombia. Magnitude 7.2, 1991, 7.2, 2004, 7.1, 1917, 7.0, 1967. Look at that, 1967 being a big year for Colombia and also for Venezuela. So this is important to note. I'm just learning about this now. This occurring in July and this other one occurring in February. So this one preceded the magnitude 6.6 that struck Caracas. So we could be looking maybe at a follow-up response earthquake for Colombia in the months ahead. That's not guaranteed, but it's just when you see these sort of trends, you have to pay attention, and it adds, for example, forecasting like a +1 modifier of probability, I would say. You know, this is not an exact science. There's an art and a science to this, which is why science has been having difficulty with this, because they ignore the art aspect of it. But if anytime I see two earthquakes pop off close together within the same year, they're linked together, because there's tons of research now showing how, for example, the seismic waves from this would load energy onto the faults over here. And now that this block has moved and ruptured and shifted, now you have different strain rates on the fault. So that's how we often get these sequences to move along. So we could be looking at Colombia going forward. Doesn't have to be Colombia first and then Venezuela. It could be the opposite. We could be looking at Colombia going forward. And I already mentioned again, New Madrid in 1812. That preceded Venezuela, and also SoCal in 1812. So both of those locations also, I would say, have that +1 modifier for not just the next few weeks, but really honestly, at least the next 6 to 12 months, about probably a year time frame. So it's not something to chat about every single day, but it's something to be mindful of and aware of. So yeah, this is history right now in the making. The biggest earthquake sequence to strike Venezuela since 1812. 214 years ago. 214 years ago, the biggest earthquake sequence to strike Venezuela, 214 years ago. Yeah. Let's go back here and see how they've updated our 7.5. And we're going to do, there's a ton of super thanks. We're going to quickly go through them and then get back to the report. I see that there's 21,000 people watching right now. So hello and welcome everyone. If you're new here, I'm your host, Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy, geo YouTuber, I guess you could call it. But my interest is understanding what's happening with the Earth and the sun and our energetic environment. So I track into and look at all these different things like earthquakes, volcanoes, geomagnetic storms, space weather, planetary alignments, and more. They're all connected together in interesting, unique ways. If you'd like to learn more, then please subscribe to the channel. We cover all these things almost daily. I release videos almost daily, whether regular videos or live streams. And yeah, basically my ethos and what I consider responsibility is that when something happens, I'm right there on it as fast as I can. So thankfully I saw the alert for this pretty quick. I was outside gardening, but went to take a water break and I immediately got the live stream up. So because it's important, this is real world, what's actually happening, not fake news junk that they feed you, right? This is real people being affected and real families and friends, people losing loved ones, unfortunately. And, the media only reports things a certain way and they don't go in depth. So that's why I do my best to research more and more into things and also just give you the best information that I can. I'm not perfect, but I do the best that I can. So thank you for your support. We see that we have 213 responses that have come in for this. So again, it's from Venezuela. So you're not going to get many responses. Let's actually switch gears because we're ignoring the 6.9 in Japan. Venezuela is the big one, but we also had this 6.9 Japan. So before I get to some super thanks, and let me refresh this to see if we have the wave visualization, because these are really help people to understand what's happening. Sometimes the beta page has it before the others. Not yet. They usually take a few hours. But let's talk about Japan just briefly, see what was happening here. Here's our 6.9 Japan. A 7 on the Did You Feel It, which I believe is very strong. Yeah, so very strong shaking, damage moderate, but Japan is pretty well used to these, and typically they don't get damage from a magnitude 6.9 off the coast. Like, we've had quite a few of these. We'll look at that record really quick. I mean, look at the regional information, just a snapshot there. What? Japan is the most seismically active spot on the globe. We can look at our moment tensor. Looks like a classic reverse thrust here. I'll turn myself off. This beach ball plot. Again, the main thing to look at is the rake, the third number. So we see 60 or 107. A number of 90 that's positive means a perfect move upwards. So you can kind of, again, visualize that like the fault just going like that. Now, it depends on the slope of the fault plane. But if it's a vertical fault, it would literally just go like this with a rake of 90. So we see here that the two solutions here are 31 or 63. So one shallow, one steeper, but both of them basically being moves straight up. And this one here being shallower and also with a bit of strike slip because it's 60 not 90, meaning that there's a little bit of lateral motion as well. But it is those reverse faults and those thrusting earthquakes that give you those tsunamis. So NOAA has said that there is no tsunami risk, warning, watch or advisory, threat, whatever from this. That's good. We see that again right here. We see the 6.9. You typically need over a magnitude 7 to get a tsunami. And you really need usually over a magnitude 8 to get something significant. Now, I mentioned the 7.5 or 7.7, something like that, that hit Hawaii in 1975. That was because you literally had part of the slope of the volcano pushed down into the ocean. So that wasn't a magnitude 8, but it caused a devastating local tsunami that did claim lives. But usually under magnitude 7, you're not worried about a tsunami, which is good. And this one also, we can look at it. We see the depth is 51.7 kilometers. So that's deep enough to basically nullify a tsunami risk as well. You usually need to be big, you need to be shallow, and it needs to be a thrust up. If it's a strike slip, you're probably not getting a tsunami because you need there to be the vertical displacement of the ocean floor such that you get this push of water upwards, but then rushes outwards in all directions. Okay, so we can go back here, look at our interactive map. Overall, big earthquake, definitely notable. I would have made a video on it if it was the only thing that had happened. But thankfully, not that big of a deal in terms of final impact, right? In terms of economic loss or buildings and people. I mean, these people certainly felt it. But it looks like they only felt it at a level of about 5 or 6, which is strong shaking. So some strong shaking felt up in the north, but nothing too crazy, thankfully. I mean, I wouldn't want to be there for that, but nothing cataclysmic, you could say. What just happened in Venezuela looks like, well, whatever it is, it already happened. But we see 1812, 15 to 20,000 people. That's the thing. So now it's more modern age, so it's probably not going to be as bad as it was in 1812. But we could be looking at 10,000 plus people lives lost from this double sequence just now. So let's look at our earthquakes in Japan just to quickly give you an idea of what's been happening over the past year. We'll just go back 1 year to 2025. They really started up in November. We've been tracking this. We'll put magnitude 6 earthquakes on, and we will draw a map around our favorite island nation. Well, I don't want to say that at the exclusion of other island nations. I love Jamaica, for example, but we love the Japanese, hopefully. And here we see all the earthquakes magnitude 6 or greater that have been striking Japan over the past 8 months or so. we go to our oldest here, we see this magnitude 6 there on the 21st of June, but you see this 6.8 and the 6.4 really starting up on the 9th of November. Those occurred with a coronal hole. Again, one of these guys, it may have actually been the same coronal hole. This one's been reoccurring for a while. Keep in mind that 2025 was one of the biggest years for earthquake activity ever on record, because we had the magnitude 8.8 strike Kamchatka. This solar cycle, you have this 11 to 12 year, it's a bit of a broader range of variance, but in general, 11-year solar cycle where the sun goes active and then it goes quiet and then it goes active and quiet, and you have a flip of the magnetic field about every 11 years. The range is more like 7 to 14, whatever. This solar cycle has been anomalous in that it's had so many of these coronal holes, which are well correlated, like super well correlated with earthquakes. Now that we've had solar cycle 25 maximum, we're just now in the descending phase, starting it. The research is going to really prove that, because we had research going back looking at 2022, 23, 24, connecting coronal holes to earthquakes. But now that we see what's just happened over the past few years, it's undeniable. So these coronal holes are really big earthquake drivers. Going back here, we had that happen in November. So that was right with the coronal hole impact, the high-speed stream impact. Here's the 7.6 that occurred on the 8th of December. You notice that's exactly 1 month later. So again, same coronal hole came by and activated it again. It's a 28-day rotation period for the sun. You see quite a few other quakes here. Let's put on largest magnitude. Here's the 7.4 that struck on the 20th of April, just nearby. Our 6.9 that just occurred today. Again, there's the 6.8. Here's a 6.7 that occurred on the 11th of December after that 7.6, just a few days after. Here's a 6.7 that struck back in May on the 15th. So Japan's been super active over the past basically 8 months. And then you have that one earthquake there that occurred, this one there that occurred in June. This one here, even further to the north, it was January 13th of 2026. But, you know, this is kind of good and bad. It's good in that there's been quite a lot of release of seismic energy here with the 7.6, 7.4, 7.9, or 6.9, 6.8. You see these distinct blocks and zones too. At the same time, basically, this is a giant seismic swarm. So when it comes to a magnitude 9 plus earthquake, even if you added all these together equal at most a magnitude 8. Probably not even. It's probably more like a 7.8 or 7.9, if that. Probably more like a 7.8 earthquake. So as it relates to a magnitude 9 earthquake striking Japan, or even a magnitude 8.5, right? If this is equivalent to 7.8 and this is all foreshock, then we could be looking at an 8.8, let's say. And well, we did just have the 8.8 up here. You had the 9.1 in 2011 right there. Then you have the 8.8 following up afterwards. We just had 7.8 Philippines. Like, we could be looking at a really big earthquake in Japan. So this 6.9 is a continuation of this story of like what the heck is happening in Japan. Just because we've had a lot of earthquakes here doesn't mean that, oh, it's all done. As you can see, they keep happening. And roughly in the same location. This being about 150, maybe 200 kilometers across. So pretty large zone, but clearly, as you can see, well defined within this larger subduction zone. So Japan is pretty serious right now. Okay. So let us go through some of these super thanks that have popped up on the live stream. And again, if your question is out of the ballpark, I'm not going to answer it. Maybe I answer it some other way, but we're going to keep it focused here because this is a serious situation. So Gus, and Tiny, I wouldn't say I predicted this, but I talked about the connection between Venezuela and California just today, and I've talked about this many times. But today, literally with the 5.6 that struck Willits, just outside Willits, we were talking about Venezuela and the connection with big earthquakes in California and Venezuela. So, yeah, you know, think about whatever you want with that, but you can watch that live stream, the last one I just did. But it's all there. It's all there. The receipts are abundant on the channel. Thank you, Summer, for the super thanks. Shaq's left nut. Okay. Videos show the aftermath of the earthquake. I'm not sure I'll be able to see that because there's probably a ton of notifications that have come in. But let's see if we can find some sort of tag or something. I don't know. It's probably buried too deep now. But we did look at some videos already. So thank you for that tag. That's appreciated. And we'll continue on with our super thanks. How much of the fault has ruptured? Any MMI maps? We did look at this briefly earlier, but we can go here to our overview. We can see that it was roughly about at least 100 kilometers of rupture, probably closer to 150. But we measured from here to there. It's about 110. So we'll get a better estimate, but I would say probably in that 100 to 200 kilometer range is what we'll see from this double sequence. I would err closer, probably like 100 to 150, but we'll find out. I wouldn't be surprised by 200. I wouldn't be surprised by 200 plus, but probably more like 150. That'd be my guess. Wayne, thank you so much for the super thanks. And Art, thank you as well. We did a prayer for Venezuela earlier. So thank you again, Days of Noah, for the very generous super thanks. And yeah, anyone, I personally believe in the power of prayer. Most Venezuelans probably do. Anyone can believe what they want, but if you are someone that believes in the power of prayer, then that's something that you could do anytime, just to send some good energy that direction, because the people certainly need it after something like this. And Crump, just asking about the Ring of Fire correlation to today's quakes. Well, we had the magnitude 6.9, and California also got hit the 5.6. So yeah, big global seismic burst. Again, if we go here, we can look at this. Global seismic activity right now is at extreme levels. Basically, the highest it's been since the magnitude 7.8 that struck the Philippines. Here we see how the seismic energy races across the globe. So that's the interesting thing to keep in mind here too. Okay, I didn't touch on this yet. I'm glad I remembered. And look at the time here. This is like an hour later, focusing on the antipode in Brazil. And they, big earthquake can have these seismic waves propagate across the globe many times. Not only do you get surface waves traveling across, you also get like P waves and S waves that can travel through the earth and refract or reflect off various layers. And so their travel time can be 20, 30 minutes. And what we saw with the 2011 earthquake in Japan is that there was a shear wave that was generated by the 9.1 that then went down and bounced off of the outer core, the liquid outer core, because shear waves can't travel through anything that's liquid. Liquids don't allow for a shearing motion. Whereas a solid, you can kind of shear it. It bounced off the outer liquid core, and when it got back to Japan, it caused Japan to shift about 6 millimeters to the east in the direction of the reverse thrust. So there's a lot of dynamics at play. It's not just the initial earthquake. These other waves can be tremendously profound in their impact. So not only did we have the 7.2 and 7.5 for Venezuela, right? And maybe these visualizations are updated now for Venezuela. Maybe not. We'll find out. Probably not. But not only that, is that we also had the 6.9 Japan, almost not exactly opposite side of the globe, but kind of close to it, and within 30 minutes. So you have this really interesting wave, like triple waveform propagating out across the globe, which is just now starting to fade out. How is that loading energy into faults all around the globe in interesting, unique ways that could perhaps be dangerous in terms of faults now rupturing much sooner than they would have, especially with these sort of space weather conditions, and we have a full moon coming up. So we have our fortnightly tidal maximum coming up with the full moon. These tidal maximums do provoke earthquake activity globally. For like all magnitude earthquakes, it's like about a 0.5% increase as it relates to new moons or full moons when the when the tides are strongest, not just ocean tides, also vertical displacement of the Earth called earth tides, right? You actually have the Earth itself flexing and heaving and microfractures being generated. But if you look through the record, we often see the biggest earthquakes cluster around either new moons or full moons. So we do have the full moon coming up as well, and this space weather impact is going to last a few days. It's not just a 1-2 day thing. We're just now in it, but it's going to continue on for another few days, taking us basically to the full moon. So the next few days are critical. With these seismic waveforms propagating around, with the space weather the way it is, with the full moon, and we also just had the global electric circuit charged up by a sequence of solar flares. So we also have the sun just having these huge explosions, and that light flux from the sun charges up the global electric circuit. Here we see the X-ray flux. I'll turn myself off again. You see we had a 6.9 M-class flare, a sequence of M-class flares here back on the 20th and 21st, and now we're getting lower grade but still elevated solar flare activity as a very large sunspot is rotated into view, which we can see here on my earthevolution.com energy-analytics webpage. If we scroll down, we will see this new sunspot rotating into view. So here it is right there. It's been very active. We have now 2 weeks of this sunspot rotating across. So yeah, the next like week is critical. Even though we just had this, there could be a lot more. Sometimes we see not just one day, but multiple days for global seismic bursts, where it's nonstop magnitude 7s basically, 6s, everything. So this is quite serious. This is quite serious. Continuing on, CPL, does Amazon have a donations page? They have the logistics to get things there today, and the money spent on helping people directly. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. But I like the thought of donations. I don't know. Generally, Red Cross is the first group that can respond. But I don't know how much money that you give them goes to them, that type of deal. But yeah, if you have any money to donate, if you feel called to do so and you find a good outfit for that, then I recommend you do that. There's a recent activity in Yellowstone National Park, Old Faithful area, Black Diamond Pool. Is this an offshoot of that activity? Yellowstone is always doing its own thing. In general, people look into Yellowstone too much as being, one steam explosion, as being portending the end of the world. So unless you see some really big activity at Yellowstone, like, everyone's covering it, I'm not worried about Yellowstone. So just in general, it's cool to see steam explosions, whatever. Hopefully no one gets hurt or the eruptions, but we have to see much bigger activity for me to be like, okay, I'm concerned about Yellowstone. But it is a super volcano, so it's not nothing. Tex, thank you for the super thanks. And seriously, what about Guyana? Any connection? I'm not really sure what you're talking about. I mean, I know that's a country nearby, but it doesn't seem anything's happening there, so it doesn't seem so. Were you ready to answer that question? Thank you so much. And looking up too, how do you think this may affect San Andreas as well as Cascadia, if at all? We discussed that earlier in the live stream. We see this connection between earthquakes in Venezuela and California, 1812 being the clear example, but today now also being a good example. So all eyes are on California as well, especially now that this has happened. So Cascadia is a little further north, but we know that San Andreas and Cascadia can do a simultaneous rupture. That's certainly possible. So this is serious. This is really serious. Now that this has happened, this is really serious. Puma, with some astro knowledge here. Algol, this is a star, is conjunct Mars, June 23rd to 24th. Thank you for the super thanks. Did this impact Trinidad and Tobago? Well, that would be, what? Trinidad and Tobago is like should be over here. I haven't been there yet. For some reason, it's not showing the country names. Where is Trinidad and Tobago? I thought it was, oh, here it is. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was more to the east. It doesn't look like they are probably affected by this. Yeah, thankfully. Probably not affected. Thank you for the super thanks. Yeah, tsunami advisory canceled. That's good. In 2026, yeah, thank you for the super thanks, Gus. We'll leave it at that. Because you can. Thank you for the super thanks as well. And Andrew saying, why did the Venezuela earthquakes trigger the tsunami buoy near the Peru-Chile trench? There's a disturbance right at the right time, right at the same time. I don't know why, but they shouldn't have. I mean, I wouldn't like look into it too much. Wonder about Aruba. I think they got a huge shake as well. Potentially, we can go here to see what Aruba felt. It looks like a little bit of shaking was felt in Aruba, but nothing crazy. So that's good. And can you explain the plate movement for Japan and Venezuela? Yeah, Venezuela strike slip, and for Japan, reverse thrust. So here it was slipping past like this. You know, the two plates are grinding past each other. For Japan, reverse thrust earthquake. And would these earthquakes have anything to do with 2 nuclear weapons Russia detonated this morning? I have no idea what you're talking about. So I feel like I would have heard about that. That would break a treaty, basically, that we've had since like the 90s. So I don't know. I'm not seeing anything about that when I just do a Google search. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. But I'm not saying it didn't happen, but if they detonated 2 nuclear weapons, it would have been on the news. And I'm not, like, everyone would have heard that. That breaks like 30 years of no testing by the big powers. Supposedly. So I don't know. People look into that if you want. I don't know. How would a magnitude 10 look like? That's kind of a whole different thing. A little bit beyond the scope of this video, but it would be beyond destruction. It'd be a cataclysm. It'd be a cataclysm, and you get like a 2,000 long fault rupture or something like that. I mean, it would literally be insane. So nothing that we want to spend time talking about because it's just not fun. Kirill. I texted my wife in Western Luzon tonight about stress on the Manila Trench fault. Earthquake prep is needed for her and the locals who don't ever worry about EQs or typhoons. Still until it's too late. Yeah, if you live in an earthquake area or anywhere that can get natural disasters, just cyclones or tornadoes or whatever, make sure you have an emergency preparedness plan and you have some emergency preparedness supplies. This is basic stuff. Just because it hasn't happened for you doesn't mean it's not going to happen. If you are right now where this 7.5 is and 7.2, right, power's out, you're going to be happy you have water, food, hand crank radio. If you have them, hopefully you do, you're going to be very happy you have these supplies. You'll be much better off, and that can save lives. Maybe your neighbors don't have supplies, but you do, and that helps like tremendously. So if you live in these areas, do the thing. Wayne, thank you so much. User, thank you so much as well. Thank you, John, for the super thanks. I'll do that. Jordan, thank you for the super thanks. Monique, thank you as well. And Jay as well. Jaybird, I have a DJ friend his handle on Spotify is Jaybird, which is interesting. Nancy, thank you for the super thanks as well. Faith takes you far. Thank you for the super thanks. I don't have my sound healing stuff with me right now. I would do it if I did, but I don't have it. But we'll do a prayer before we close out. We did one at the beginning. We'll do it again before we end. How rare is a double sequence earthquake? Does it have anything to do with the planetary alignment today? Are there more areas prone to double earthquakes than others? And if so, why? Well, clearly Venezuela, because they've had 2 now on record, 1812 and 2026. In 200 years, people are going to be talking about the 2026 double sequence. Just like we're talking about 1812 right now. Turkey had a double sequence. California's had double sequences. Mongolia. They happen every now and then. They're just not that common, but they do happen. And I'm not sure it seems some locations get these clustering more than others. Like sometimes it's more than just two. New Madrid was multiple magnitude 7s, not just two. They also 6s and more. So yeah, sometimes the energy release is not just in one big earthquake, but in multiple. Thank you, Richard, for the super thanks. Thank you, Jason. Remember to breathe. Remember to breathe. Thank you, The One. Thank you so much for the super thanks. And my wife and her family live about 2 hours northwest of Mount Mayon in the Philippines. She told me they had a quake a couple days ago. What are the chances this stretches there? What are the counterpoints on the globe? Prayers for everyone. Yeah, let's look at the antipode for Venezuela. We can type in Caracas. And I think it's actually roughly the Philippines, because I looked earlier. No, it's Indonesia. So here we have Indonesia there. So basically what they're referencing, you know, they've watched the channel clearly a few times, is that what we often see with high magnitude earthquakes is we get an earthquake that's roughly antipodal. It's not exactly on the opposite side. Usually there's about a 6 to 15% deviation. I was calculating the numbers based off of some really well-known antipodal earthquakes that we had last year. And the deviation ranged from 6 to 15%. So we could be seeing a big earthquake in this region in the near future. Now, I will point out is that we had an ultra deep earthquake about 600 kilometers deep that anomalously struck here, where there's never been an earthquake of this magnitude. A magnitude 7.1 struck right there on the 22nd of February. So that wasn't that long ago. And that would fit that definition, but there's about 4 months in between. Still, that's well within the time frame. And we've had tons of activity recently in the Philippines and Indonesia. We just had the 6.7 strike Indonesia Sulawesi. So you could consider this one the antipode to those. But we were starting clearly this back and forth. So we could be looking at Colombia. Colombia could be in the line of fire going forward because that's close to this antipode location for the Ring of Fire. We could be looking, we had that 6.1 in the Gulf. That was anomalous, very, very odd. We could be looking at more earthquakes around the Caribbean and maybe even further north into North America. So it's useful to look at all these things. Space weather, antipodal dynamics, earthquake stress loading dynamics, right? We look at everything basically. Is Southern California going to get a big earthquake soon? I recommend you watch my live stream I just did before this one on the 5.6 that struck Willits. We talk about that in depth. I also have some other videos on earthquakes in California. Like just type in California on my YouTube search bar and you'll see those videos. So all of California is super overdue, especially SoCal, especially NorCal. Like San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, they're all super overdue. Magnitude 7.5 can happen. It could even be stronger than that. We don't know though. We don't know if it's going to be soon, but they're certainly overdue. How do I feel about New Madrid? Also overdue. I can pull quickly up something for New Madrid. And I don't want to hear from anyone about how to pronounce it because I'm pronouncing it correctly and people are always like, you're not pronouncing it correct. It's New Madrid, whatever. Okay? Not a big deal. Here we see that the recurrence interval for these earthquakes has been decreasing, going back to 2350 BC. So if that trend holds in general, then, well, we're overdue because it's already now been quite a while. So yeah, we're looking at this. New Madrid could be 100 years from now. It could be tomorrow. We don't know, but it's certainly ready and rocking to go. Let's just say that. It's ready to rock and roll. And we hope it doesn't, but at some point it will. At some point you'll get magnitude 7s or even a magnitude 8 to pop off on the real foot rift. And it will shake everyone up and no one is ready for magnitude 7 out there, that's for sure. Goddess of Rocks. I'm concerned about LA because we are starting Saturday, even though we are away on Saturday. Hopefully everything's fine. I'm sure, well, I can't say anything, but hopefully everything's fine. That's all I'll say. Thank you, Lisa, for the super sticker. We discussed this earlier. Everything's pretty nominal at Yellowstone. Nothing to worry about there. Alert for a 5.1 quake by Trinidad and Guyana 2 hours ago. Let's see what we got here. I think that's probably actually an alert for the 7 point something because I'm not seeing it here. Yeah, so that was just a false alert. Sometimes these local seismic networks, because they pick up the signal, the waveforms over here reduce in strength. They'll be like, oh, we just had a magnitude 5, because when it comes in, it can look like a lesser earthquake. So that's what that was. Thank you, John, for the super thanks. Peace and love to everyone here watching this. Bacon, thank you for the super sticker. Does the Barbeau basket factor in? So I'll just quickly show you this. It's pretty interesting. We have some incredible planetary geometry active at this moment in time. I've talked about this before. I'm not going to go crazy on this, but it is worth mentioning. It really picks up in about a month. But we have all the outer planets configured geometrically. So if we look at heliocentric, here's the sun, right? And you extend out a line to Pluto, you go 60 degrees and you get Saturn and Neptune. And they're in a conjunction. Not exact anymore, though for certain, depending on where you are in the solar system, it's still exact. But 60 degrees, you get Saturn and Neptune. You go another 60 degrees, you get Uranus. And then you go 60 degrees from that, you get Jupiter. So we're in this basket configuration where you have this Jupiter-Pluto opposition. That's almost exact now. Actually, heliocentrically, it's nearly there, right? So we're in this Jupiter-Pluto opposition. And then we have these sextiles between Pluto and Neptune, Neptune and Uranus, and then Uranus and Jupiter, and there's trine aspects across the board. So you have this perfect planetary geometry at the outer planets, and then the inner planets are also doing things as well. So it's this sort of, I mean, this is historic planetary geometry. Astrologers have been looking back to try to find similar geometry with this basket configuration. They haven't found it for thousands of years. So it's not like the past has never had interesting planetary geometry, but this is certainly historic for the historic record, like incredible. And we're in it right now, but it really goes more exact, like perfectly exact in the middle of July. So July is really a big month for that. That sort of configuration is not just a 1 month thing. It's not a 6 month thing. This is like a multi-year thing. But we're hitting that peak climax moment of that wave of energy in July. So thanks for bringing that up. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Russia fired 2 nuclear-capable missiles this morning. One in the air, one in the water. Yeah, that really just speaks to how these sort of energetic events cluster in time. You know, there's this observation that I've made, and I think others have as well, but often areas that are really geopolitically active get earthquakes. Venezuela just had, you know, the takeover, basically. Japan is in a currency collapse right now. They're going to be the first chain to break in the global financial system, basically, based off of the yen and the yen carry trade and all these things. Like, the yen carry trade was supporting the Western financial system for like 20 years now or more, because you get cheap yen to lend, you get these cheap yen to then buy other assets, and you're able to pay back your loan because it's like almost no interest. So now they're raising interest rates, and the rates are even like over 3%. It's historic. So we see this activity that's really interesting geopolitically. So yeah, we often get this clustering of energetic events, not only in the geosphere, but also the solar sphere and also the human sphere, right? All of them kind of, you know, the universe is way more crazy than people realize. And anyone that's taken a couple little mushrooms knows that. Let's just say that. With that counterpoint affect Western Australia, I think you mean for the antipode location to 7.5, 7.2 Venezuela, potentially, but this really isn't that much of a seismically active zone. So I'm looking more at Indonesia and this area, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, as really being the key zone. Australia potentially, but probably not. Probably more so where we've already been seeing activity. And Kara Cusack, what are the chances this creates a stress-induced Cascadia San Andreas synchronized event? You know, what are the chances? I don't know. Like, what are the chances? Does it help the situation? Let's just put it that way. Does this help the situation? Does this make it less likely for there to be something in this area which is super overdue? You know, the magnitude 9 that occurred 1700, that's our best estimate. That's 326 years ago. Biggest earthquake that struck San Diego in recent history was well, not recent history, but you know, the really big one that struck San Diego, that was 1800. Double sequence in LA, 1812. You have 1857 for Fort Tejon. You have 1838 was another one that was big. You have 1906 for SF. These are like the magnitude 7 big boys, okay? These quakes in Venezuela don't help. So what are the chances it creates a stress-induced Cascadia San Andreas synchronized event? I don't know, but it doesn't help. It makes me watch this area even more closely. Let's say that. So thank you for that super thanks. Spinning ball off balance has to balance itself. I'm nearly done here. Jordan, do you know, or is there a site that shows that the earthquakes are from collisions or separations? I'm not sure of the term, if that's even right. You're probably talking about whether it's a reverse fault or a normal fault. You know, extensional quake, a normal fault is it's moving apart. A reverse fault is where it's thrusting together. So yeah, these quakes in Venezuela are primarily strike slip, moving past each other like this. If you want to see that, you can go to the earthquake page and you can look at the moment tensor plot, which is behind me right here. And you see here that this is showing a strike slip quake with a little bit of normal movement. Not much, but a little bit. Possibility worker, agate hunting. Are these signs I shouldn't? Dude, this isn't about you. Sorry. But just do whatever you want. Have fun, live life. That's my recommendation. Jay Hussar. I don't know where Sumeg is either. But have you considered the synchronizing the event times with things on Earth to things in the sky or other events, such as roughly saying UTC timestamps? Yeah, that's exactly what we do. We saw that this triple burst of activity, the 7.2, 7.5, and 6.9, right? The 6.9 being Japan. We saw that that perfectly aligned with the coronal hole high-speed stream impact, like within 30 minutes, right as that came in, boom, 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 triple burst. So that's what we do on the channel. It's literally everything that we do. We'll see if there's any questions that come in the regular chat, and because I want to take some for the regular chat, but there was 78 super thanks that came in, so you know you kind of have to get to them. Have you ever looked into geothermal reports of an area to see if it coincided with the space weather for that particular region? In general, we're doing that. Geothermal reports a little different. I think you're probably talking about, you know, maybe a steam explosion and then checking the space weather. In general, let's just say this. The space weather connection to the Earth connection is usually big. So a small little thing, super local, you know, you're at the geothermal pool in Utah and you see a mud bubble pop up and then thinking that's connected to the solar flare, you know, it's not. It's just a little mud bubble, okay? But big earthquake and then big space thing at the same time, there's a connection. At a minimum, temporally, because it's at the same time. Now the key is, do we see similar connections repeat over and over and over in a way that is statistically significant, right? If that is the case, then you know there's a stronger connection beyond just temporally. There is some mechanism that's connecting the two. And with the space weather Earth geophysics connection, it's quite complex and nuanced and multi-layered. So, yeah. And to answer your question, Max, effectively, yeah, the temporal connection is interesting. They also all have this space weather connection at the same time. So, and their seismic waves are all overlapping together, right? After they rupture, those waves propagating out, I can show you that again, right? All those waves propagating out, that all connects them together. So there's much more that we don't know than we do know. That's what we can say. We do have an animation for this 6.9 off the coast of Japan now. They haven't done them yet for Venezuela, but it's not a visualization that's worth watching because it's only for Alaska. Well, we can check this one out. This will be interesting. Let me pull this up really quick. And I'll see if this other website that I track has the ones for, they don't. They're usually a few days before they update. So let me pull this up for you guys. I'm going to be signing off soon. But we'll see some, we'll check again for new videos that have come out, some new updates before I sign off. Here we go. So we do have a wave visualization now for Japan, the 6.9 going through the United States. This animation, this company, group, whatever, this is Iris. They make these for the United States using the American Seismic Network. So fortunately, I wish this was showing Japan because it would really be cool. But consider how far away these seismic waves are coming in from. Okay, so we start to see these waves roll through like that, showing that, you know, an earthquake all the way across the Pacific can still influence other locations. But you see it's greatly reduced compared to if the epicenter was right there, for example, which we did have a magnitude 7 off the coast at the Triple Junction on the 5th of December, 2024. And, you know, I could pull that up if I wanted to. And you see actually how sometimes the waves are coming in from the other side, right? Because Japan, it's very interesting how it all works. Actually, those are the waves from Venezuela. That's what it is. Those are the waves from Venezuela. Because we haven't seen the waves coming from Japan yet. So look at that. We have the waves coming in from California. We have red beam motion up, blue beam motion down. So big energy going across the United States from the Venezuela quake. They'll have this animation soon for Venezuela. I'll post that to my X account the moment they drop. So if you want to see that, it's at Stefan Burns Geo. I post updates there in between my videos every single day. That's the place to stay up to date. If you don't like X, I understand it. You know, I get it. You don't have to follow me there, but that's one place to find me with updates in between YouTube videos. So, is there a casualty count yet at all from Venezuela? Probably not, but let's repeat this search here for Venezuela to see if we get any new information. But estimated casualties, we can discuss this quick. If we go back to our overview, USGS currently has an estimate of, as we can see, 44% chance that there's 10,000 to 100,000 casualties. It's going to be on the lower end of that. And in fact, I think it's probably not going to be 10,000. I think it'll be over 1,000 though. I think we'll probably see 1,000 to 10,000 casualties from this. I hope that they're wrong. I mean, it'd be mind-blowing if it's this 30%. So, you know, these aren't the law. These are estimates, and they come out early. But it's probably this one right here. It's probably 1,000 to 10,000. But no update yet, as far as I know. Here's more footage from Venezuela. I mean, again, this isn't looking good, though. So, I don't know. Let's full screen this one. I mean, this is really bad. It's not just one building. It's like all these buildings have suffered pretty intense damage. So that's why the risk of an aftershock is so big. I mean, look at this. Oh my God. It may be more than 10,000. You know, 1812, a lot less people lived in Venezuela in 1812 than they do now. That's the thing. I didn't think about that until just now. A lot less people lived there then than now. And they had 10 to 30,000 fatalities in 1812. This earthquake sequence being almost identical with our initial information that we have on it. So this could be really, really bad. We've kind of seen this video, I think, already. This is right after the earthquake, I guess. You see the dust from buildings collapsing and damage and more. Thankfully, no tsunami. It was an inland quake. Strike slip when it created tsunami. But we saw that one already. We'll see this one again for people that may be joining in for the first time, but you see quite a lot of damage to these buildings here with this panorama. So yeah, this is really bad. Yeah, really, really bad. I don't know if the power has been restored in Venezuela. There's reports of power outages. Oh, that's set to top. We want latest. We're going to get comments in here as well. We can do a... Oh, here's an interesting video. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just in general, with an event like this, you're not going to get an accurate casualty count until a week from now. So it's only numbers just going to go up. It's just going to go up. The count that we get in the next hours is going to be meaningless, basically. A week from now, though, we'll have a fairly good idea. But we know it's not good. We know it's really not good. Here's a video. I mean, the thing is, like, so what happened in last year, March 28th of 2025, the magnitude 0.7 that struck Burma, Myanmar, Thailand. You know, there was a couple videos of buildings collapsing, but in general, it's just a couple videos that widely circulated. What we're seeing here is like videos from all over. It wasn't just one or two token building collapses, as terrible as that was. Here, it's tons of buildings collapsed. So this is like I don't know. It's going to be thousands. I mean, I hope not. I don't want to like say anything, but it's not good. It's simply not good. It's almost certainly going to be 1,000 plus, if not 5,000 plus. I mean, I don't know, but this is really, really not good. And people are still, look at this, how senseless, doing a political commentary after something like this. People are brain dead. Venezuela fatalities, I don't know. That's the military operation. Let's type in Venezuela earthquake. Yeah, yeah, Reuters just saying a lot expected after buildings collapse. But yeah, we're not going to get anything beyond that. But let's read what this says. I've never experienced anything like it. Okay, many Venezuelans were home when the earthquake struck during a public holiday, marking an 1821 military victory that helped secure the country's independence from Spain. Interesting that the Caracas earthquake was 1812, which is the opposite. As soon as it started, we began hearing people screaming. Everyone was running down the stairs. A lot of people remember the earthquake that struck in 1967. There was a loud crash. Things fell in the house. Stuff in the fridge. I've never experienced anything like it. And USGS, again, yeah, saying that the death toll could go over 10,000. We'll find out. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But high casualties are likely. Yeah, there's not going to be any official estimate until, like, a really good estimate until a week from now at least. It's going to take a week. So keep that in mind, because what's going to happen is there's going to be reports coming out and people say it was only 12 people. Stop fear-mongering. It's like, until it's a week from now, we're not going to know. This happens with every big quake. There's always a couple Nancys out there who are just I don't know what's up with their life, but they do it. So, and we're waiting for an aftershock. So that's what I'll close with. We're waiting for an aftershock. We don't know when that's going to come in. We hope it doesn't, but with a 7.5 and a 7.2, we're almost probably certainly having a magnitude 6 aftershock and some magnitude 5s in the days ahead. So I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Thank you all so much. I think a couple more super thanks have come in. Erica, thank you so much for the super thanks. I don't know what you're saying, Jason, but we have El Nino, so Atlantic hurricane season is probably going to be a little reduced, but who knows? The entire Hotel Eduardo fell per TikTok. Oh my God. So thanks for that update. And lots of oil and tar on SoCal Beach. I don't know why, but thanks for that report. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, everybody. I've been your host, Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy, your cosmic bro, here to help you understand what is happening here on Earth. I will update you on everything as it relates to this quake, the aftermath, future earthquakes. We went through everything in this video. It's been a tremendously active day with a historic earthquake in California for that location. Willits 5.6, never seen before, 6.9 hitting Japan, and a ultra rare double sequence in the magnitude 7 range for Venezuela. We are right now at the beginning of a space weather impact where these sort of earthquakes are more common. These are coronal hole high-speed streams. And again, if we go up here to our global seismic activity level, we see that we are at extreme levels right now. So that very well could continue for the next few days. Maybe not extreme levels, but at high and very high levels. I would not be surprised if we get other magnitude 6s and 7s to pop off in other parts around the globe. Antipode location for Venezuela is Indonesia in general. We've been having earthquakes there already. We had the 7.8 in the Philippines, south part of the Philippines, close to Indonesia, like Sulawesi, that whole area. We could see follow-up activity there. We could start to see activity ping-pong back and forth. We could be seeing activity in Colombia soon and also California. So it's crazy right now. We have this historic planetary geometry. We touched on that earlier. This is connected into solar activity and also these Earth geo events. Believe it or not, it is. So that's active all summer. So, and we're having this super El Nino right now as well. This is just coming in. So this year is already shaping up to be crazy. I'll do my best to make sense of it and deliver that information to you and educate you all along the way. So one final prayer, and please do this on your own too. If you believe in the power of prayer, then it's something that we should all be doing at this moment in time. Prayer for those who right now may be trapped in rubble but still alive. God, may they be found. May those who were injured heal quickly from their injuries. May families and friends that lost loved ones, may they find out that may they not be missing in for forever. May they be found so there can be closure. May God please send love, prayers, peace and healing to the Venezuelans and help them to rebuild and to recover from everything that's happened, not only with a military coup, but now with this ultra devastating earthquake. Bring this country back into glory. Thank you all. Amen. And I'll see you all in the next video.